In the first module of the course, The Principles of Teaching English, we considered the different roles teachers have to take on in the classroom, including the role of an organiser. As the organiser, the teacher creates a conducive learning environment for students, one that is safe and effectively facilitates or helps your students' learning process. In this module, we have looked at the different aspects of classroom management that contribute to the smooth running of a lesson.
So, I understand that as the organizer, I should use these classroom management ideas, as they will provide a clear framework for my lessons and will also help me to manage and organize my students effectively.
Correct. Classroom management is an integral part of teaching, and it involves making decisions about what to do and what not to do at the different stages of a lesson. Classroom management involves areas such as setting up activities by giving clear instructions and making decisions about student interaction, including a specific room setup if required. It involves monitoring, bringing activities to an end and providing feedback. Forming groups informed by the type of activities. The teacher would need to make decisions about the layout of the room, seating arrangements, or perhaps the teacher would prefer students to stand up for that matter, regrouping and so on. It involves controlling the pace of the lesson so that the teacher teaches the students, not the book or the lesson plan. Balancing teacher and student talk time, with the aim to keep TTT, or teacher talk time, to a minimum, and avoid running commentary, in particular when giving instructions or presenting language and checking understanding. It involves gathering and holding attention. The teacher would need to plan how they are going to draw students' attention back to themselves, and how to get students to do things. And finally, there are corrections. Here, the teacher is required to make decisions about what to correct, when to correct, and how to correct. Perhaps also who should correct.
Perhaps we could briefly summarize what we have considered in the module about some of these areas of classroom management. Let's look at setting up activities.
So, this is something you should plan before the lesson, as you will be able to anticipate any problems that may arise. When setting up activities, you need to ask yourself how you are going to give instructions, how you are going to arrange the students, for example, into groups, pairs, sitting or standing, and so on, and how much time you are going to give the students to complete the task. You will also need to make sure students understand why they have to do the activity.
In terms of giving instructions, what do I need to be aware of?
Okay, this is a very important area of classroom management. If you fail in your instructions, the activity, and consequently, the lesson will not be enjoyable nor effective. So, draw students' attention to yourself. Make sure all the students are looking at you. Chest the material. Make sure all the students can see it. Make sure they can see you as well. And it's a good idea to stand up when you give instructions. Use imperatives and cut down on any superfluous language in your instructions. Keep them brief and crystal clear. Make sure your TTT is always purposeful and graded. Remember to give one piece of instruction at a time. If possible, demonstrate the task, or do the first example with the students. Check the instructions back. You can use ICQs. Give a time limit. Tell the students how much time they have to complete the task. And finally, maintain good eye contact throughout. Watch your students to check they have really understood. And many less experienced teachers like to script their instructions before the lesson, and we recommend doing this.
Once students are on task, I monitor. What do I have to bear in mind when monitoring?
Yes, there are many reasons why we monitor. For errors, for success, to see if the materials are working, to check if students are still on task, or maybe they need help and so on. When monitoring, you need to decide on your position in the room. You probably don't want to be too visible, so as not to distract the students, but you want the students to know that you are immediately available if they need you. So, students know you are there to help, but they don't feel they are being observed and intimidated by your presence. While you monitor, it's a good idea to make notes about the language students produce, and this is useful for feedback.
Oh yes, feedback and corrections, another element of classroom management.
Yes, there are quite a few decisions you have to make when correcting students. First of all, once you notice an error, you need to decide whether to take action immediately, make a note for later, or ignore the error altogether. This will partly be informed by the type of activity and whether the focus is on accuracy or fluency. Do not interrupt the flow if it is fluency. Monitor and make notes of errors for delayed correction. When correcting, remember, you first need to indicate that an error has occurred. There is a variety of ways of how you can do this, and we looked into some of them in one of the previous lessons. Indicate the type of error. And once an error has been identified and brought to the student's attention, elicit self or peer correction. Do not simply provide the correct answer. And be sensitive when providing feedback. Don't put students on the spot by pouncing on their errors. Also, make sure you give feedback on errors and a good language students use to balance it out. As you can see, classroom management is a very big area, and you will learn many techniques on the job. But plan thoroughly. Anticipate problems that may arise with classroom management, and all along remember that you have to use your instinct as well. Many a time you will find yourself in a situation where your decisions will have to be made in real time. So, good luck, and congratulations on completing the course.
Is there maybe one last piece of advice or a suggestion that you may want to share with us?
Well, I guess I can just say, elicit, listen to your students, and never ask, do you understand? And I hope this is helpful.